Okay, buckle up, listeners, because this time we're diving into something pretty mind-blowing. It's Google's Notebook LM.
Yeah, it's not every day a tool comes along that has the potential to, completely change how we interact with information.
Right. And it's not just another note-taking app. Imagine like having a research assistant who's already read all your files for you, every article, every meeting note, and can just pull out exactly the insight you need right when you need it.
What I find fascinating here is this shift from just like passively storing information to this active creation of knowledge. It's not about digging through those old files for that one quote that you vaguely remember. It's about the tools synthesizing, connecting, and actually like generating a new understanding from what you've already gathered.
So it's not just organizing, it's like understanding.
Exactly. And get this, we're not just talking about a handful of documents. Think about, a massive research project. Maybe you've got 20 crucial documents like dense reports, academic papers, all of it. Notebook LM can handle up to 4 million words.
That's more words than I've probably ever spoken in my life. Okay, so for those hearing about Notebook LM for the first time, let's break down like how it actually works.
Okay, so think of it this way. You're feeding it your sources, and these sources can be anything, from Google Docs, PDFs, even excerpts from books. You're essentially giving it this crash course in your own personal knowledge base.
So I could upload, say, like this podcast research folder, and it would like know everything we know.
In a way, yeah. And then here's the really cool part. You get to interact with it through a chat interface. Very much like, if you've ever used ChatGPT, it's similar. You just ask your questions, give it instructions. It's really intuitive.
So I could ask it, for example, what are the main arguments for and against using AI in creative writing? And it would just pull directly from all those articles and research that I've given it.
Precisely. And that is the key difference here. Notebook LM's responses are grounded in those sources that you give it. It's not pulling from some, vast general knowledge base. It's giving you tailored insights, but from your trusted material.
Okay, and that's huge, especially for anyone who spends hours and hours sifting through research. No more like jumping between tabs, trying to remember where you saw that one important fact.
Exactly. Or imagine this. You've just come out of this like marathon meeting. Your brain is fried, but you need those key takeaways, the action items. So instead of slogging through pages and pages of notes, you just feed that transcript to Notebook LM. You just ask it, give me the 3 most important decisions we made and who's responsible for what.
And it can just pull that out, even if my notes are like messy and disorganized.
It can. And it goes even further. Imagine asking it to draft a follow-up email. Summarizing those key points and assigning tasks, all with direct references to your meeting notes. And that's what we mean by active knowledge creation. It's not just summarizing, it's actually enabling you to act on information in a whole new way.
Okay, I'm already getting ideas for this thing, but before I get too carried away, like, are there downsides? There have to be some, right?
You're right. No tool is perfect. Notebook LM, it's still under development, so you might run into like a bug here and there. You might find that it doesn't always quite understand exactly what you're asking.
So manage expectations, basically.
Exactly. Recognize the potential, but also the limitations. And another thing to remember is that it's very tied to, the Google ecosystem. So if you really want to get the most out of it, your core information needs to be in Google Docs or PDFs.
Which, let's be honest, a lot of people are already doing that. But if you've built your whole workflow around something else, that could be a deal breaker for now.
For the time being, yeah. But it's early days. Knowing Google, I'm sure they're already working on expanding that compatibility.
Okay. And what about those 20 document limits? I feel like with bigger projects, that could be a bottleneck.
It's a valid concern. Imagine you're, a historian, you're working with hundreds of primary source documents. For now, you'd have to find a workaround, right? Prioritize your most important documents, break things into smaller chunks, maybe even combine key excerpts into fewer files.
Not ideal, but yeah, workable.
Yep.
Although I imagine Google will be under pressure to increase that sooner rather than later, especially as people start to really push the limits of what it can do.
Absolutely. And speaking of pushing boundaries, the thing that excites me the most about Notebook LM is it kind of blurs the lines between, what we used to think of as these separate stages of learning and creating.
I was just thinking that. We're so used to compartmentalizing, okay, research time, note-taking time, drafting time. But this just, blends it all seamlessly.
Precisely. Traditionally, you'd read an article, take your separate notes, switch to your writing app when you're ready to draft. Notebook LM, it all happens in one space. It's like you're having this ongoing dialogue with your knowledge base.
So no more like constantly switching between apps, worrying about file formats, or forgetting where you saw that one brilliant quote.
Right. It just streamlines everything. It lets you work more intuitively, more efficiently. Imagine you're in the flow of writing and you can instantly recall, synthesize information from like dozens of sources. That's powerful.
It really is like having a second brain that's always working in the background, making connections, surfacing those insights.
Exactly. And there's another layer to this we haven't even touched on yet. Privacy.
That's right. In this day and age, with all the, data breaches and algorithms and everything, it's more important than ever to know where your information is going.
Yeah.
How does Notebook LM handle that?
That's one of the things I appreciate about it. All those sources that you're feeding it, they're not shared, they're not being used to like train some giant AI model out there. Your data stays yours. It really is like having a private research assistant who's sworn to secrecy.
Okay, that level data security is like essential, especially if you're dealing with sensitive information.
Hmm.
But we've covered a lot of ground here, like how Notebook LM works, pretty incredible things it can do, some potential downsides, even its impact on the creative process.
And it goes even further, think about its potential in education, how it could make knowledge accessible for people who, maybe they don't learn well with traditional methods. There are so many possibilities.
Absolutely. But before we launch into a whole other conversation, let's bring it back to our listener for a second. What's the one key takeaway you want them to walk away with today?
If I had to boil it down to one thought, if I had to boil it down to one thought, it would be this. Notebook LM. It's not just another shiny new tech tool,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's a fundamental shift in how we even think about information itself.
Yeah, we're moving away from this idea of information as something we just consume and more towards something that we actively, engage with and shape and create with.
Exactly. It's about taking control of all that information overload out there, cutting through the noise, and getting to those insights that are truly meaningful, but meaningful to you. Notebook LM, it gives you the tools to make sense of your world, connect the dots, and I think ultimately, bring those unique ideas of yours to life.
Earlier you used that phrase, active knowledge creation, and I think that really sums it up well. It's not even about remembering more. It's about doing more with what you already know.
And that's what I find so exciting about it. This isn't just for, academics or some tech whizzes. This is a tool for anyone who wants to learn and grow and really, make their mark on the world. The real question is, what are you going to do with this newfound power?
Yeah, it's a powerful question. And on that note, we'll leave you to explore Notebook LM and all its possibilities.
See what kind of connections you can make.
Discover those insights you never even knew existed.
And who knows, maybe even change the world.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the future of knowledge. We'll catch you next time for another adventure in learning and discovery.